Welcome to the Flower Prophecies, a podcast exploring all things flower essences and remedies and flower therapy, and how this vibrational plant medicine has the potential to heal and shift our individual and collective health and consciousness. We'll be diving deep into the specifics of individual essences, nature's energetics, emotional healing and growth, as well as hearing client case studies, hosting special guests and professionals, and I'll be sharing my own personal explorations and philosophies channeled straight from the flowers. Through my own unearthing, I have discovered what I believe to be the most profound teaching of the flowers, and I now wish to share with you the practice of alchemizing fear into beauty. All right, so welcome to the Flower Prophecies. So on the podcast today, we are interviewing Kaitlin Weston, a kinesiologist from the Brisbane area in Australia. And Kaitlin runs her own kinesiology and wellness practice from her property. Within the practice, she works to enable others to heal holistically and rebalance themselves and their lives. So combining her work with flower essences over the last 30 years, Kaitlin has created a deep relationship with this medicine. And this is something that I personally know the body is always asking for within kinesiology sessions. So Kaitlin, thank you for being on the podcast today. It's so lovely to chat to you.
Hi, Abby. Thanks for having me. It's so nice to be here.
Beautiful. So let's get straight into it. I would love to hear from you firstly a little bit about your history, how you got into kinesiology and working with flower essences, and maybe even if you can touch on a little bit of what kinesiology is for those that may not know.
Sure. So we'll start with what is kinesiology, because like so many people are like, kinesi what? But,
that's it.
So if we look at the word kinesiology, we'll take the kinesi part first. So kinesi is really about movement of the body. So if you think about the body, everything moves, there's emotions that move. There's chi and energy through meridians and organs and tendons and muscles, and there's so much movement throughout the body, and it's important that everything keeps moving, otherwise it gets stuck, and that's when disease starts. So kinesi being movement of the body, and then the ology part is really just the study of it. So kinesiology is this kind of line in between science, like real scientific, these are the physiology, the biology of the body. And also, we get to play around with Chinese medicine and chakras and meridians and flower essences and all of that nice energy stuff. So it's a beautiful combination of scientific work as well as the energy. So that's what I think I love about it. It can just go so many different ways.
Beautiful. I love that.
And so in terms of how I got into it, 30 years ago, my mum, I had a middle ear infection and I was 16. I was 16 when I left school, and I went to work in my dream job as a travel agent. And I had a middle ear infection, and I'd been like, you just can't get your balance and you just feel really woozy and nauseous. And so Mum took me to see a lady in our hometown. It's a very small town in South Australia. And she was a nurse at the hospital, but she also dabbled in kinesiology. I think she'd gone and done like a touch for her horse or something like that back in the day. This is back in the 90s, showing my age now. And she did a quick balance on me, gave me some bushflower essences, and straight away I was able to stand up, walk normally. It was like an instant thing. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, wow, So I said to Mum, quick, get my uniform. I'm walking across the road to go back to work. See, small town. Mum got my uniform and I went back to work, and that was it. And so at that point, I'm like, wow, like one day I'm going to do something with this. And so from that point on, I've always played with the flower essences. Later on when I studied kinesiology and started my practice, obviously that was just a no-brainer to add that into what I do here. And so that's really how I kind of got into it. And then, of course, I've used them with my kids. All my kids have seen kinesiologists over the years. My children are 22, 21 and 20 now. So they just know that whenever there was something going on with them, I'd throw a bottle of something at them and seem to fix it. So, so that's really my history with it. And now I just use them every day. Every day. There's like a cocktail of flower essences that I use every day.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And so I grew up taking them as well. So my mum studied the bushflower essence course. I don't know what age I was, but so I grew up taking them from, I don't know, maybe around the age of 10. And so it was such like a normal thing. But I like to think that the flower essences slowly guided me into working with them themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I feel, like when I started out on the kinesiology journey, I actually called, her name is Jill, and I said, I just want to let you know you were my inspiration to start kinesiology. And she doesn't practice anymore. She's a little bit older now, but, and she was way ahead of her time. Be a nurse and dabble in holistic medicine, whoa.
Yeah.
It's unheard of back then, it's more common now. So
beautiful. Yeah. So I'd love to hear a few of, obviously you've shared your very first experiences with taking a flower essence in that session, but I'd love to hear some of your first experiences with working with them on a deeper level, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Of course. Probably the deepest level, I can go, and I've done it 3 times, is using them through labour and through childbirth.
Yes. Yeah.
And I used emergency essence. I drank that stuff I think I had all my babies in North Queensland. And I remember Mum sent me up 4 bottles of the stuff just in preparation, and I was lucky. I had 3 natural deliveries, no pain relief, anything. All I did was take emergency essence, the bushflower. So I cannot recommend that enough. I think that's an amazing blend. And then, throughout the years, just dealing with life and business and whatever, Calm and Clear was always a great one that I've used as a blend.
Yeah.
Probably in recent years, the most profound one was when at the start of COVID, so started 2020, and everyone was kind of retracting. Everyone was kind of going back into their shell, and there was so much I wanted to do with my business, and I just went, what is everyone doing? Everyone's frightened and they're hiding, and they're just going back into themselves, and not in a good way. We say, let's tune back into ourselves. Well, there was this crawling back into holes within ourselves.
Yeah.
It just didn't sit with me. And I remember I started taking the night blooming cirrus flower. This is a LotusWei one. This is in a blend, the full bloom blend, but I started taking just the flower on its own.
Yeah.
And I started taking it, and within a couple of days, I could just feel everything, just the expansion and the fearlessness and the determination was just off the charts. And so I said to my husband, I want to build a tiny home. I want to build something that I can have my clients, instead of having them in my home, I can. So I started spending all this money, even though we weren't meant to be operating. I wasn't meant to be seeing clients because of why and all of this sort of stuff. I just went, no, I feel like now is the time to expand, because when this is over, people are going to need people like me. People are going to need that space that they can come and recover and have that bit of hope and, just get back to what they need to do to get over all of this stuff. And so that night blooming cirrus really flipped my whole business around into taking it global, really, and being able to do online sessions with people from all over the world, and just rethinking how we're doing everything, and having, like a new space to work from. So people thought I was mad. People were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, but this is what it was, like the flowers guiding me and telling me, and you can do, and just, you can do it. So that's been a huge one. Another one was when I started using Sacred Heart.
Okay.
That's a LotusWei blend. It's in a white bottle. That one is for grief. It's for any heart stuff. And, LotusWei sent it to me and said, right, start using it, see what happens, journal, write down. It's very important that we write all this stuff down so we know what it's doing.
Really?
Well, that just ripped my heart open. It was like I was teary. Didn't know why. I was reliving stuff to do with the death of my brother that I thought I had processed. And it actually got to the point, my husband said to me, he said, honey, what are you taking? Like, what have you got going on? What are you doing at the moment? I'm like, well, this and that, whatever. And then a few of my friends had it and they're like, I have to stop taking it. It's too raw.
Yeah.
And this is I don't know if that's ever happened to you.
Yeah.
But this is the power of this stuff, and I kind of then went, right, well, I still want to work through it. But I might need something just to quieten it down a little bit. So I added some inner peace spray and through that I got through it and really dealt with some stuff that I thought I had dealt with, but it was at that real deeper level.
Yeah.
So look, there's so many things, but those two are probably the biggest. One is that propelling forward for the good reasons. The other one is also propelling forward for the good reasons, but it's having that healing crisis in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have worked with the essences, giving them to family members and friends and a few clients that are going through labour, and I love to label them push. But I think it's the macrocarpa and something else, maybe crowia, that we combine together for that, taking you from that first stage of labour to the next stage of labour, and then using something like the emergency essence, before and after as well, and during when you are calling for it. But I like the feedback that I get from them is just, I wanted to scull the drops the whole time, like I just wanted to use them the whole time. The nurse knew just to put them in my mouth.
I know. And actually, while you were saying that, I was thinking, transition essence, the transition essence.
Yes. Yeah.
That's for that final kind of, that is that transition between
the bottle brush. Yeah. So letting go, sort of moving forward, stepping into that new way of being and that new sort of era, new version of yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
So could you share a little bit about how it is that you work with the flower essences within one of your kinesiology sessions?
Yeah, of course. So that card I just showed you, actually, that's kind of how I start. And I sort of get clients that come to me for the kinesiology, and then they might know of flower essences, they might not, but by the end of the session they certainly do. Yeah. But then I also, like yesterday, I had a lady that I do a remote from in Sydney, and she had been working with LotusWei for a while just on the flower essences, and then found me through them. And then it was like, well, I just want to go another couple of layers deeper. And so we were able to intertwine it really well yesterday. It was a lovely session. So I sort of start first by, and maybe have you done this exercise before?
I haven't actually.
Seen these before?
I've seen in some of your photos, I've seen them, but I haven't actually seen them anywhere else or done them or anything like that.
Okay. So there's 18 flowers on here. Yeah. So I normally get the client to choose a flower. So these are the flowers that we kind of our own patterning, what we need right now at this moment in time. So do you want to choose a flower?
Sure. And I'll just explain for anyone that's listening and can't see the visual. It's just like a little piece of cardboard with a bunch of different flowers on it from, is it the LotusWei collection? Yes. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to choose this one over here.
Okay, awesome. So that's the fire star orchid.
Okay.
And you find that in inspired action.
Ah.
And that is, so this is, are you often ahead of the curve but shy about sharing your innovative ideas?
Ah.
Get inspired and motivated, be clear and decisive.
Beautiful. That's very resonant.
That's
right
you.
now.
Yeah, so that's in that inspired action blend.
Very.
And so, you know, that's the first thing I do is get them to choose a flower. And then that kind of gives me and gives them, because they've chosen it, a bit of a, oh, yes, like now you're going, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So straight away, you're already starting to take charge of your own journey and your own healing.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then the second one is this one.
So for me, the top left.
That one?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so stunning. That's the Radiance Orchid.
Okay.
It's about surrender. Surrender into fearless self-sufficiency and accept life as it is. Experience vulnerability as peaceful.
Ah.
These ones here are more to do with what's going on a collective level. And then the third one, there's only 3.
I mean, we can do it forever.
We can do it all day.
Ooh, I'm thinking the bottom right corner. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's Angelica.
Yeah.
So Angelica is about unseen support. So it's who is our community, who is around us, who do we need to, who is out there that we don't know is out there that will work with us.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. They're all very resonant.
Yeah, and that one as well, it's about collaboration. Yeah, so I start with those, and then of course I use them throughout the balance. So then I would find the relative flower essence and mist them. You can put them on, just sit them on the body if you want to, but normally I mist. So they get this beautiful aromatherapy kind of thing going on as well, because the mists are in gorgeous oils too, as well as the flower essences. And then I start doing all the pre-checks. I use them a lot when people come in. They've driven to get here. They're quite worked up. They're upset. They're not sure what their session's going to be. They're on edge. They're in, and most of the time they're in survival stress. They're in some kind of, whether that be, pain, loneliness, sadness, rage, frustration, fear is probably the biggest one, and so when you're going through and you're checking all parts of the brain, as things come up, I'm always spraying. I'm spraying inner peace, I'm spraying boundless wisdom, I'm spraying those ones that just calm and settle the nervous system. And then we're working through the whole actual kinesiology process. And I wrote a book called Kinesiology and Applied Flower Essences.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's just about to come out. This is version 2. I never released version 1 because more flowers came. Yeah. But you would know. So like for every meridian of the body has the organs that apply to it, right? Yeah. So the kidney meridian, and it's all tied in with the bladder, whatever. Yes. And so if you think of the body as like this extension cord that goes around it, and when we have a certain emotion that affects an organ, then that organ gets stressed and doesn't start to function right. Yeah. And so it needs to pull energy from another organ to keep it the energy. But then that organ that it's pulling from, then that has an issue. So that will pull. And so that's basically how we get out of balance. Yeah. Yeah. So what I've been working on for a number of years now is, what are the attitudes that we have that affect those particular organs, or affect one organ pulling from a certain organ? And so then when we go through and we look at that, and then we put the corresponding flower essence next to it, and then there's like an affirmation that will work with it.
Beautiful. That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's been a labour of love, and I think I'll get it finished and then LotusWei bring out more flowers. So then I have to sit and test, and I've got to work on people to see if that flower, will correspond with that and whatever. So I put that in there as well. And then, when they come in with like a physical issue. So flower essences traditionally are only known to be useful or helpful in emotional cases, but we know that emotions cause physical issues within the body. So, hey, why wouldn't they work for a physical issue? Because we go back to the root cause, we sort the emotion, and the physical issue often resolves itself. Yeah. And so, when people come in and go, oh, I've got really bad sciatica, I'm like, okay, well, I've got a flower essence for that. Or I've got carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay, well, there's a flower essence for that. And so, in my opinion, there's pretty much a flower essence that will fix and solve and support any illness.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's funny, I was having this conversation just last week with someone actually. So because traditionally, like you say, they're not sort of known to work on the physical aspect. But obviously, like you say, any energetic, any emotional imbalance can manifest into physical ailments and illness. So if you take away the cause of that, then the symptom has a chance to resolve. So within the Australian bushflower essences as well, there is they associate a lot from what they've sort of seen and witnessed over the last 30 years. They associate them a lot with different body parts and different organs and things like this. But do you find that it's always like what you've written your book on? It's always the associated organs with the specific emotion, or do you find it differing quite a lot as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It can be, generally it's the same.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there's some anomalies, amongst that as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like in the case of, I find it a lot with women's reproductive health.
Yeah.
There's so much that's going on with women generally. They're often, and lately over the last 3 years, some of the things probably not as emotional, they are more. There's issues now that women have that they haven't really ever had before, if you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
And so some of those things, I just hit straight away from a kinesiology perspective. I just go in and do a whole balance of those organs and of that actual reproductive system.
Yes.
But then I throw the flower essences in to support that as well.
Yeah.
And so, toxicity is just such a huge thing now that never was before. Yes, we get a bit of environmental or it's the food we eat, but now there's like another whole layer of toxicity that I see coming through. And young girls, pre-20s, that there's all sort of issues there as well. And so that's where the flower essences have come in well there too, because I can use the sacred bodies and I can use the radiant energy, which is just great for all of that kind of genre of stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, generally it's kind of we know what the gallbladder and liver means. We know what the bladder and kidney means. We know all of that stuff. Yeah. But then over the last 3 years, I've seen some other things that I'm like, whoa, this is different.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So moving on from that, so like I mentioned in the intro, I've known that whenever I go to a kinesiologist, my body is always asking for a flower essence. So do you find that, obviously you just explained that you kind of, the way you utilize your essence, the essences within your practice is kind of like you start the practice off with them. But do you find that pretty much every person their body is asking for a flower essence?
Pretty much through here, I would say 90% of people. I mean, a lot of clients now come to me because of the flower essences. They come to me because they get that whole beautiful experience lying here. It's very relaxing. I have them in the diffuser. I have them, as you can see behind me, you know, and even though they're in their bottles, they're just vibrating out. Like you walk in here and it's like, whoa.
Yes.
You know, even my 19-year-old son, he just loves coming in here. He's like, Mum, this is so vibey. And he's like a hardcore desert racer. And he's like, Mum, this is such a vibe in here. I love it because it's just...
it just feels so good.
Yeah, but normally everybody walks out of here with some sort of flower essence because why not?
Yeah.
You know, my aim as a practitioner is to see people 2 or 3 times. Really get them stable, get them to a point where they can start having enough clarity to make really good decisions about what they need to do moving forward with their own healing.
Yeah.
And then seeing them as they need to. So I kind of feel if I'm seeing them every month without fail, it's not that I'm not doing my job properly, but I never want them to be dependent on me. Like I said to you in the intro, like I go to my kinesiologist every month, but that's for the work that I do here.
Yeah.
You know, but I kind of feel that I want them to take their own healing into their own hands. I can show them some tools in those first sort of few sessions, and then they walk away with the essences to support themselves in between sessions or with their own Jenny. That's what I want for them. I don't want them to have to see me every month for 3 years.
Yeah.
Financially, that'd be awesome. Hey, but that's not my intention for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you know we are all in charge of our own healing. Nobody else is responsible for how we are and how we heal. And yes, we can have support. And you know, we do very well with a great support system around us. Ultimately, we got ourselves here. We are the only ones who can pull ourselves out.
And I think, you know, I think that's what the flower essences shift for us. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was a therapist talking, and you know, she was talking about how she'll see a client for 50 minutes a month, and they don't usually get anywhere in that time. Like they don't usually progress much in that time. And I just thought how different it is if I see a client for 50 minutes every month, how much they progress and how much they heal with the using of flower essences. And it's just like, this is why I see flower essences as such a important part, because they actually allow you to take your health and your wellness and your growth into your own hands and to actually take responsibility for it. They initiate that within you. They catalyze that within you. And so it's like what you're saying is like your endeavor is for them to end up being able to like heal themselves and manage themselves. And I think that comes with utilizing the flower essences, definitely, because I think in your practice, if you weren't sort of doing that, they would just be returning every month for 3 years.
But also they're not taking ownership of their own healing.
Exactly.
Right? It's not my job. It's my job to, as a kinesiologist, it's my job to give them tools and give them some ideas and to clear that stress away and to introduce them to some new things.
Yeah.
But ultimately it comes back to them.
Yeah.
And I feel if I've done a good job initially, they will continue that through. And yet, you know, of course, then there's always things that are going to trigger that old stuff because we're never done healing, are we? We're not.
No.
You know, there's always things that are going to crop up, and there's always that subconscious stuff that is triggered, and we're like, holy shit, am I back to where I started? You know, but no, you're never back to where you started. You've always come forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It is back on everyone but it's hard for them to know what works for them. It's hard to find when you're in deep survival stress and you don't know what you're meant to be doing next and how you're going to get through the next minute, hour, day, month.
Yeah.
That is where the confusion is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can use those tools that the practitioners have and the flower essences, that's going to get you stable. Once you are stable, you can start to make decisions and start to work out what you need to do, and then start to look a bit more inward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, you're so right. It's like giving them those tools in that way, like to the best of your ability. But then it's also like, the flower essences kind of just like open that consciousness up slowly. And it takes as long as it needs for this specific person. But
And, like back in the early days, I always thought of flower essences as using them to fix something.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It was like, oh, I'm stressed. Oh, I need this. Yeah. I'm in pain. I need this. Or I'm angry. I need this. Which we still use them, right, for all of those things. But what we don't use them enough for is for that projection and for our own evolution.
Yeah.
If we don't keep evolving, ultimately we die. Our spirit dies, right? We live in this world of compensation all the time. And if we're not actually evolving, what's the point? And so what I've found with these flower essences is that you can, something that would normally, say a project, if you had a project or something that you really want to do, but it seems so overwhelming and you're getting stuck in the details and then you're losing sight of the big picture, use a flower essence, because I guarantee you something that would take you something that would take you, say, 6 months, you can shorten it down to a month, and before you know it, you're flying.
Yeah, absolutely.
People say to me all the time, my friends, they go, do you ever stop? Like, how do you get through what you get through? And I'm like, it's the flowers. And if I know that I have to do stuff, even that I don't like doing, like, I have to do all my tax rubbish. I hate anything to do with numbers, but I have to I hate all that stuff, but I have to do it. And so I just go, right, and I get into the inspired action, the game changer in the inner knowing, and it's done in 2 days, things that I procrastinate or put off. So, and it's the same with any of the abundance blends, or if you've got ideas that you want to do but you don't know how to get it out there, or if you just want for your own awakening, just wake yourself up more. There's flowers for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's, it's the only modality I know. It's the easiest modality I know.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing.
So simple.
Yeah, it is so simple and so available. And like all you got to do is mist them, anoint them, drink them, or put them in your coffee or whatever. Like it doesn't get any easier than that.
Yeah.
And so, I just think we're all crazy if we don't take them.
Right.
But again, there are so many things out there, Abby. There's so many supplements and products and do this and stuff your skin and whatever. So how do you kind of cut through all that and just get down to what we know works? And I see it, like my kinesiology client, they'll lie down on the bed behind me, and like I take what I do extremely seriously, and I'm very honoured that people allow that their deepest subconscious fears and emotions that come to the surface. And, that is such a privilege to work with people on that level.
Yeah.
Like I can see it. I'm standing in their field, number one. I'm standing right next to them. So I am in their field 100%. And, when I start misting them or anointing them, and I'm watching so closely, and I see the little shifts, and I see the twitching, and I see the tears start to form, and then I see the breath change, and I see them almost like gather up this courage. And when you're looking at that, it's creating kind of like this story for them. That's empowering for them, and it's empowering for me, because I'm like, I'm here witnessing change in this person that is happening, and it's mind-blowing, but it's taking that mindful time as well as a practitioner to observe that.
Yeah.
And then, and just reflect on actually what you're seeing at this point of time. It's pretty special.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's so special. And you're right. Like, it's such an honor to be able to, obviously within my practice, it's slightly different. I don't have them, in front of me, sort of able to witness the actual physical reactions as they take it. But I still can see them, and I hear from them like almost instantly, like a lot of the time. So I agree. It's amazing in my mind.
But also, like, your feedback is when you're sitting on the couch at night and you get a text from someone going, "Oh my gosh, what is in this stuff? I feel so much better."
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the feedback that you get.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, or it's my kids are finally sleeping. My kids are sleeping, I don't have to lie there with them because, they've taken a flower essence that has just been enough to calm them and have a lovely, peaceful, quiet bedtime. So that's the thing. There's unlimited and exponential growth for these things. I think in the future it's just going to be a boom town.
Absolutely.
This energetic medicine is going to be a boom town because what else do we have left?
It's almost just like a knowing, your inner knowing of like, it's going to have like this moment of shining and everyone being like, where was this? Why haven't I seen this before? And it's like, it's been here all along.
And I think what I see through my clinic space now is that people are done with numbing themselves.
Yeah.
They're done with dumbing it down. They know that that's just a Band-Aid. It's not a long-term solution. It's just a quick fix.
Yeah.
And whether that be through pharmaceuticals, whether it just be through drugs, through alcohol, through sex, through gambling, whatever it is, when we go into that compensation, it's just numbing the issue. It's not dealing with anything. And so then it's compounding and it's just building to a point where it's like,
yeah, you can't ignore it anymore. Yeah,
you can't ignore it anymore. Because then it's manifesting in the physical body, right? And so then it's like, well, gosh, now I really have to do something about it. Mm-hmm. All my fields have been copping it, but now I have to actually do something about it.
Yeah.
And so that's where the flower essences come in. Because in my opinion, there's nothing more powerful and easy.
And affordable. A lot of you listening may think that, some people may not have the money to go out and get flower essences for themselves, but you can make flower essences in yourself from whatever flower you pass in the street. Make sure it hasn't been sprayed with anything, but then go and make it yourself and make sure it's not poisonous as well. But it takes 3 hours to make one yourself. And usually the flower that you're drawn to, the flower that's growing in your backyard is what is needed for you. And you can also infuse that with your intention for your own healing. So it's like it's accessible to pretty much everyone, even if you don't have the funds, as long as you got a bowl of water and a flower, you can
sunlight or moonlight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So I love it. I love it so much. So you obviously predominantly work with LotusWei, which is Katie Hess's flower essence brand. So I had Katie on the podcast last year and she actually introduced us. Thank you, Katie. So I'd love to hear the sort of what you've noticed in difference, if there is any difference in working with LotusWei over things like the Osbush flower essences or maybe bark essences or creating your own or whatever it may be. And if you do sort of prefer one over the other or,
Well, I've used Australian bush flowers. I've used Desert Alchemy. They're also ones from.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, so they're from Arizona. They're all cactus like desert flowers. Desert Alchemy. Yeah. Bark, obviously. There's the Pacific flower essences. There's Alaskan. There's New Zealand. There's South African. There's so many different ones.
Yes.
I was drawn to LotusWei years ago when I heard Katie on a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, like, who is this woman? Like, she's talking about flower essences because, I had worked with them for so long, but now you've actually got someone on Spotify talking about them. Like, whoa, she's my lady.
Yeah.
I started listening to all of them. And then she finished her podcast in early 2020. And, you know, I was Devo, so I started going back and listening to all the repeats. So then I ordered some and I started working with them. And the changes I felt in myself were profound.
Yeah.
I just went, whoa, like this is like next level. I love the fact that they're in honey, the elixirs.
Yes. Yeah, I tried one actually, and I was like, "Wow, what is this?"
Which one did you try?
Wait, let me check. Oh, Awakened Perception, is that it?
Oh, the new one, yeah.
Oh, wait, no, it's not that one. Sacred Awareness.
Sacred Awareness, the gold one.
Yes, that one. Yeah,
I know. Have you got it in the spray or the elixir?
Both.
Oh,
yes.
How delightful. This is like got cacao in it, so it's that chocolatey smell. I love it.
Yeah.
And so started working with them. And then I just went, well, I think I can introduce them into my practice. So I started doing that and became a LotusWei partner. They invited me over there in November 2022 as part of their Flower Lounge in Arizona. They do these amazing Flower Lounge events. Hopefully,
that must have been amazing.
It was, yeah, it was incredible. They have a very core group of practitioners that they work with, you know, from acupuncturists, applied kinesiologists, they have massage, they have naturopathic doctors, all sorts, but they have a very sort of core select group of practitioners that they work on. And we all talk and we all swap ideas, and that's another whole podcast in itself, actually.
Yeah.
What I love about these ones, and I love all flower essences, so I have all the rest of them here, and often they will come up still in a balance.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in kinesiology we have flower essence mode, which is that. Yeah, so there's actually a mode, so you can put that mode on, test the body, and if that mode shows, then you know there's a flower essence relevant. There's also a crystal mode as well. Okay. So the LotusWei have got crystals infused in them. So yesterday I actually did crystal mode, and azurite came up. Okay. Azurite is in this full bloom blend, so that was something that the client. Yeah. So there's lots of finger modes for flower essence, and there's like finger mode for essential oils as well.
Okay.
And if essential oil comes up, instead of just going, say, to like a, you know, just that oil, I can give them the flower essence that has the oil in it.
Yes. So
they're getting not only the benefit of the immune protocol of the flower essence, of the oil, but they're also getting the benefit of the flower essence as well. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1, and the gems in there too. So you're kind of getting like a 3-in-1 kind of go.
Yeah.
What I love the most about these is that with all the other flower essence brands, they're all like one particular type of flower.
Yeah.
It's like Oz flowers are the gorgeous Australian bush flowers, you know, but the cottage European flowers.
Yes.
Whereas with these, they're collected from all over the world.
Yeah.
And so you might find, like in Sacred Body, for example, this one here, you will find that there's flowers from Taiwan, there's flowers from Costa Rica, there's flowers from the Teton Mountains, there's flowers from Iceland. So all in the one bottle. So geographically, those flowers would never be near each other on the planet.
Yes. Yeah.
But when they're collected, and sometimes, like, I know Katie's collected flowers from many, many, many years ago as the mother tincture, and it's stored. And then that essence hasn't come out until it needs to come out.
Yes.
So there are flowers that have come out, blends that have come out over the last 4 years.
Yep.
That the flowers have been collected a while ago, but they're only being used now because now is why they need to be used.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
You know? So I feel the flowers at the moment that come out of that apothecary, just like, you know, Ian from Bushflowers released what's the new one? L-theanum, yeah. So that was released at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Now, there's a reason why he's now gone and collected that, and because that's what we need right now. That's what we need as humans on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's the same like with the LotusWei, you know, like it's the ones that Katie knows that we need right now for the current times.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons they work really well. Second is the geographic reason as well. The third one, I have met the team that bottle them up. They're all done in-house in Phoenix. And the John and Jocelyn who do that, they're like these beings that just float around that place. I have never seen two people so calm, so in tune in what they're doing.
Probably because they're working with the essences all day.
They literally float around. Like I'm like, hey, John, it's just this gold that float. Like it's incredible. And so when you have people making those essences by hand with such intent on why they're doing it, for the power of mankind and for peace on the planet, of course they're going to work great. If there's some, and I believe with the bushflower essences, it's the same sort of thing. I feel that with some of the other brands, they're mass produced.
Yeah.
They come out of a factory. And so you know, the intention is different. And that is very important when it comes to working with any energetic medicine, is the intent in which they're made. So I feel that's the third thing, the reason. And the last one I think is because they all have yarrow and pink lotus in them. And
all of them?
All of them have yarrow and pink lotus, And so pink lotus we know is the most spiritual flower on the planet. So it's kind of like a catalyst, and the yarrow is so good for energetic protection and protection from all the G's and protection from all of those environmental factors out there, Wi-Fi, everything. And so the yarrow and the pink lotus just go in everything. So I think that's
interesting. That's I guess that's a little bit like the fringe violet in the Oz bushflower essence protection, and then also the mola mola, which is like for the radiation and stuff. And that makes me think about like you using that even to just protect the essence itself within the body.
Maybe, you know, with your blends, that could be something that those two flowers, because of the properties of them, they could go in anything, in everything.
Exactly. For sure. But it's also, like you say, something that I love about like personally mixing flower essences for clients is that I get to really infuse them with the intention of the levels that we're healing within them. And, you know, I write them a custom affirmation, and that's repeated and sort of infused with intention into the bottle that I'm giving them. And I think it makes such a difference.
It does. Yeah. And that's something else that I do, you know, here within clinic. The client I had yesterday, she wants a new job. And, you know, the goal that I set for her was my dream job comes to me effortlessly and easily. Full Bloom showed for her, which is about, I've got my glasses on, fearlessness, determination and unveiling hidden potential. So I sent this one down to her in Sydney. So I said to her, when you take it, you say your affirmation, my dream job comes effortlessly and easily. And you take it. So you're taking the flower essence with intention. You're setting an intention for that. Because that makes all the difference.
It does.
I mean, look, I just like, spray. I'm spraying all the day. Sometimes I don't do an intention. But I do. And it's nice. It's like that. It's literally like that 2 seconds to just think of it.
And I am recording a solo episode actually on the power of intention behind using these, and it's almost like you're casting a spell, right? You're like commanding the energy, and you're actually infusing the water with that intelligence with that intention, just the way it's holding the flower essence, life force and energy, you're infusing the energy of that intention into the water alongside it, so that it almost like magnifies it, and you're like commanding a spell basically for what you want it to do. And like I notice so much of a difference if I'm not using an affirmation with a remedy. So like I'll usually do a course of a remedy for like 2 to 4 weeks, and if I'm not using an affirmation with it, it has 50% of the potential like of a remedy that I'm consciously using an affirmation with and commanding that spell and intention to work on. So yeah, it's so interesting. I love it so much.
I know, we can talk about it for literally.
Literally.
I never get sick of it because we see benefits, we see it, how it works. And, you know, I've had clients that have been on anti-anxiety and antidepressant medication. I've had clients that have been on Prozac.
Yeah.
And they've been able to get off all of that and just use the flowers with no side effects.
Yes.
That's what I think we just forget to mention, is that there is zero side effects.
None. Yeah.
They're also adjusting.
Yeah.
Like there's no negatives whatsoever in taking it.
Exactly. And like you mentioned before, there is the potential for like healing crisis, which is like the emotion and the energy within us that we've stored and had stuck within us. We actually need to purge and release it. And so we may find challenges presenting. We may find like ourselves becoming like, feeling a little bit under the weather or feeling a little bit ill. But it's not a negative side effect, because it's not actually negative. It's actually releasing from you, and it's actually healing you. It's actually for the better, for your highest good,
But I think too, even in that case, it's only a couple of days generally. And, that's not a long time to actually sit through something when it could take you, without the flower essences, it could take you years, or it might never happen.
Yes, exactly.
It may never happen. Some people take their crap to the grave.
Yeah.
And really, there are things that you don't want to live with, and there's certainly things that you don't want to die with either.
Yeah, definitely.
That's another whole conversation.
It is, because, we use the flower essence as well to heal past life issues and past life illness and past life experiences, whether that's something that you sort of follow or not, we take on, and not even past life, but also ancestral epigenetics. We take on so much from our ancestors, but also from past lives. So, and they heal to the bottom of it, like they heal right back to the very beginning. So it's super interesting.
Well, we have no control over what comes down through our DNA and our lineage, but we do have control what we send through to the next generations after us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, part of my legacy is that I can help people clear as much stuff as I can in my lifetime. Then the generation after might have a little bit easier.
Just one more question, and that is, what do you believe the world and the collective need most at this time?
We need to go within more, turn inwards more, trust ourselves that we have the answers.
Yeah.
For our own growth and evolution, we must negate as many of those fearful patterns that we have.
Yes.
Our perception of the world is, in my opinion, it's skewed by fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have the reality, but what we see as reality is different for every person. And often the reality is not the reality, but it's our fear that gets in the way, that skews that and kind of turns it around. So I think moving forward, I feel like 2024 is going to be a tricky year. I feel like it's going to be, I feel like they're going to try again. something's going to be tried again to see our reaction to it. And I think we have to stand our ground and rise up against whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And by doing that, really, it's about us waking ourselves up and having our own awakening of what's actually who we are as humans, what we're capable of. Our resilience is so high. It's higher than what we think it is. So flower essences for that, someone asked me this yesterday actually, flower essences for that would be any of the ones that open our third eye, that help to dissolve fear, and those ones that allow us to turn inward and have that wayfinding and pioneering.
Yes.
Ourselves.
Love that pioneering.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And just know that we have the answers. It's just that when we don't have clarity within ourselves and when we lose our connection from spirit, you know, that's the number one thing. When we become disconnected spiritually, whether that's to God, whether that's just to the universe, whether that's to no one in particular, just your inner voice, it's when we become disconnected is when we fall into that compensation and you know, and we're scared of the void. We're scared of the void. That hole. Yeah. So we start filling it with crap we don't need. So I think we need to stop that and just simplify things. Yeah. So it'll be interesting, 2024, and it's the year of the wood dragon.
Yes.
In Chinese medicine too. So that's another reason why we should have more plants and flowers around us, being with the wood element.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be fiery. It's going to be a fiery 2024. And, that's not all bad. Fiery is just more high energy, high octane. Let's just see what happens. So
yeah. A lot of forward momentum though, I feel as well, like a lot of movement.
Well, it's the time to push. Yes. If you can push now and work hard this year, I think it'll just leapfrog you further on down to up to where you want to be, I think.
Oh, thank you so much, Kaitlin. It was so beautiful to have you on. I love what you do. And do you want to share with the audience where they can find you?
Of course. Thank you. Yeah. So my website is caitlinweston.com.au. So Kaitlin with a K. I am halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. You can book me online or in person, or if you don't even want to go down the kinesiology route now, I've got the flower essences. You can purchase those. I am looking at doing another flower course this year, so education and just whatever you need. It doesn't matter what flower essences, what brand, whatever, you do what you get benefit out of. I think that's the biggest thing, because they're all incredible, no matter which one.
I think that's it, and it's just about really sort of sharing this medicine with the world in whichever way it presents for them, just sharing it with the world so that they can open themselves up to it and utilize it. Absolutely.
Well, that's what we're doing, aren't we? We're here to give people the opportunity and to educate people in this plant medicine, because I think it's the most incredible plant medicine on the planet.
So do I. I love it. If anyone couldn't tell by now.
If anyone couldn't tell by now, maybe we're biased, or maybe we're not. Maybe we just know. Maybe we just know what works.
Ahead of the curve, did you say I was?
Yes, I have to send you a bottle of that.
Yes.
Are you ahead of the curve but shy about sharing your innovative ideas?
Interesting. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you, Kaitlin, and thank you everyone for tuning in again. If you would like to leave a review, if you enjoyed today's episode, you can do so, and I'd be so very grateful. Share this episode on socials and and subscribe on the channel that you're listening on. You can find my Instagram at the Flower Prophecies and also Heka Healing Flower Therapy. And then you can head to my website at hekahealing.com.au. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I'll see you next week.